The agenda is to review and approve the minutes of January 9th, 2025. And under discussion of other business, we have Bergeron Construction site plan modification. And we're going to discuss conditional use permits and other business as may be required. So up to the beginning, there's nothing on the agenda, so we don't need the regional impact vote. So moving on to January 9th, 2025 minutes. Anybody make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve by Mark and there's second by Mike. Is there any further discussion on our changes or anything like that to the minutes?
You said stupid thing, we have Mark listed by strictly my lawyer's last name.
Oh, interesting.
No big deal, right?
Yep.
But that's a good way to fix the motion to deny moving and then 10. Structural.
First name basis. It's in the company slot. Okay. I can make sure that's more simple.
Anything else? And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Moved on from that. We're going directly to conditional, I know, Bergeron.
Yeah.
I'm reading the wrong one. Bergeron construction, and that's a site plan modification. So what are we doing here?
Is anyone here from Bergeron?
Yeah.
There you go.
How you doing, guys?
Hey.
I'm Matt Abbott, Blue Chamber, site owner. So we're planning on moving our office to 358 Matthews Road. And getting that a team, we're gonna close down the office that's there and occupy 358. What you've got in front of you is a 28 by 24 addition, just to add a couple more office space within there. It's a little bit cramped and want to open it up just a little bit. So that's what we're here for, so that we can get approved through the through building department, so we can start going.
Okay, so the addition part is which part? I have another drawing.
We had an old site plan done up, and then we just kind of, I sketched it on there where it's gonna be, but it is also on the Tim Sampson did the drawings for us, it is on there as well, right?
Yeah, that part be the addition right there, you know, the.
Yeah, right here, it's the unshaded box.
Oh, the unshaded part. Oh, yeah, I see, I see.
Yeah, there's a little bit in the back.
It's that part.
That's also that.
No, that's just an old porch.
Yeah, it's like-
And the swimming pool that's there is already filled in, we filled that in already.
Nice, we're looking
Well, you
back
did this
a
one.
bit. And
Well,
plenty of parking there.
you better put the fire in.
And,
We did a rough review, it seemed like it was okay for ordinance.
yeah, nothing that staff then came up with at all, now questioning that. It's a pretty simple modification.
It meets all setback requirements,
Yeah,
so,
and you've got plenty of parking there.
Yeah.
Right, things.
How many square feet?
is the addition,
Yeah.
it's about 500 square feet, a little under.
Any questions for the applicant? It's pretty straightforward what we have here. And,
We'll be back down at some point too, once we get, we're gonna do some signage and some other stuff too, but this is just the first step so that we can, get kind of rolling.
Yeah. So from the board anyways, everyone in agreement that this is a site plan modification?
Yes. I
Did
have to point out, this is our first time using this new form, so. Keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah.
If there are any problems that come up, this is our first time using this.
Okay.
And even though we approved it way back in September, I think. So
Yeah, but we haven't used it all.
I haven't used it yet, so did you guys see anything wonky with it? Let me know, we can fix it.
Well, I don't think it's a copy of the form isn't in my, is it in
Oh,
your-
sorry, yeah, it was.
My side.
Is that an official term, wonky?
Oh, yeah.
Wonky's official, yeah, it's
Second, so let's see.
discombobulated.
Requirements, it does meet project site describes the proposed modification to the site, and it does, we're not doing there. Updated copy of that shows the proposed modification. And is this the update here, or is it a larger update, or that hasn't come through yet?
I don't think there is.
Hasn't come through yet, so. But an updated copy of the originally approved site plan is forthcoming. I'm sure, because,
Yeah, we can get that for if you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were dancing around because it is such a small modification.
well, we require that, just have it on record.
Yeah,
What
we'll
was
get it
done
done.
throughout the years.
Yeah, we'll get it done for you.
Okay.
So I think it needs to be conditional upon
Yes.
receipt of.
Receiving that.
And then Chris will receive that. You guys are gonna work with Chris, at town hall for that.
Is he the new?
Yep.
So, okay, yeah, because we haven't been introduced
You
yet.
go to enforcement officer, just pop in,
Okay.
sometime. Good dude.
Yeah, yeah, so upon you guys' approval, I'll take that all down there and then I'll get the site plan, updated. for you
Up to the
guys.
site plan, you have to bring it to the building inspector and,
Yep,
the land use will probably have a look at it too,
okay,
you know, we have it there, and that'll be our record.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? And everyone in consensus that this is a site plan modification, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Richard, yes.
Yeah.
I am too, okay, good. So then I guess, all we need is a motion, you know what? Motion by Michael York to approve the site plan modification, is there a second?
Just conditional on.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay,
Conditional on
With
receiving
the condition.
the updated site plan.
Yeah.
Seconded by Mark, is there any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? You can get started.
Great, we don't need to come to the next meeting with site plan, I can just turn it in to. go
Yeah,
with
you
the
can,
plans.
they'll take a look, if there's a problem with it, you might have to come back, but
All right,
problem with it, you're
All
good.
right. Thank you for your time, guys,
I'll
appreciate
send you guys an
it.
email on Monday.
What's that?
I'll send you guys an email on Monday.
Awesome, thank you. You got my info, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Let's see, our next item is conditional use permits. Before we get into that, on our last meeting on the zoning amendments, when we did amendment number 10, there was a motion to deny amendment number 10 and not move it to the warrant. And that motion failed. So when something like that fails, the chairman is supposed to call, which I know this, and I didn't catch it until I read the minutes on Friday, that I should have called for a motion to put that on the amendment, because otherwise it goes nowhere. You know, considering, we'll say, for example, we're doing site plan and someone makes a motion to deny the site plan, the motion fails, it doesn't mean the site plan automatically is approved. I mean, you have to have a vote on approval, same way with amendments. Okay, let me see, I'm gonna go through it again. If we're doing a site plan and we'll say Michael makes a motion to deny the site plan, there's something wrong with it. And that doesn't carry.
And and only
It
he,
doesn't, well, he and maybe two people voted for it and it does not carry.
okay,
That doesn't mean that the site plan is automatically approved. It just means his motion for denial failed.
okay.
Then you have to call for a motion to approve.
Okay,
So the same way with zoning amendments.
Yeah.
If you deny or say it's not gonna move forward, but the motion does not carry, that doesn't mean it automatically goes, even though I said it at the meeting, it doesn't automatically go on to the warrant. So we do need to put it onto the warrant, and I think we're all consensus that we probably ought to just vote to put that on the warrant. If so, we need a motion to put in, we're talking about amendment 10, and I will just say, you remember which one it is? I will tell you which one it is.
Of a wetland.
We aren't gonna discuss it, nothing about it we're gonna discuss, we're just having a motion on it, because we did all the discussion at the public hearing, we cannot discuss it. All the discussion is done at the public hearing, so it's uses permitted. It's the one, the uses permitted, and it was the one that
Okay.
took out a bunch of permitted uses, and I think the main problem with it that people had was that you couldn't cross the wetlands. That was that amendment there.
I know which one.
So you remember which we're voting on? Rick, you remember which one we're voting on? Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was this one here, it was down there.
Yeah.
so we,
If we're doing that. Gosh, we should also have looked at number 8.
No, because everything else either passed or was denied. Number 8 was denied, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
But it was, but it carried. It did, the motion did not fail, it carried. So it was saying that was not going anywhere.
but initially we had approved it going to the warrant. in a previous,
That approves it to go to public hearing, not to the warrant. The public hearing is where you approve it to go forward to the warrant.
okay, then that brings up. Well, okay,
No,
no,
let's clarify, we need to
no,
clarify. It's
take
good-
care of that one first.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then we can discuss that, but it's good to clarify this stuff, because it teaches us all how the planning board works, what we're supposed to be doing around.
Okay, so one more time.
Yep.
We voted on amendment 10,
The motion was to deny
Motion was to
the
deny.
article to go forward on the warrant,
Okay.
but that failed.
This is the only motion, to just clarify, this is the only motion that did not carry, which is why
Yeah.
we're having this conversation. If the motion had carried, this conversation would be
Right.
happening, so that's correct.
It would have decided something happened to it, which didn't happen.
Yeah, so this is the only reason why we just need to fix it at this meeting, because the motion did not carry, it's the only motion at that meeting that did not carry. So,
Yeah, and normally,
We need to move to put it on the warrant.
yes, to,
Okay,
move forward with Article 10 to go on to the warrant.
So
town
moved.
warrant. Okay. Motion by Victoria to put amendment 10 onto the town warrant. Seconded,
Second, for your other question.
seconded by Mark, now it's discussion.
I mean, this was done during a
Public hearing, yeah.
this is not a public hearing. And do we have the advice of council or we can?
I called, when I noticed the mistake on Friday, I called the New Hampshire Law Association or Municipal Association and got an opinion, and they said, yeah, you should go ahead and do a vote because it's in limbo, it's going nowhere. He said, you're correct, do that. But we got an opinion from our town attorney, and he said, well, it was clearly intended by the board that it was going on that warrant, because the chairman, which was me, said so, that was going on the warrant. So all intents and purposes, it's going there. So we had two differing opinions. He said, you probably don't have to do it, but
he
as
said,
chairman, I think we should do it to be safe.
yeah, Cordell essentially said it's fine as is, but this is just further clarification, essentially.
No,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Crossing all the T's, and dotting the I's,
And
as they
to be
say.
honest with these, I didn't just answer yes or no, I answered yes or no with an explanation to make it clear. But so we have motion for this to.
Motion on the floor to put amendment number 10 onto the town warrant.
Now amendment number 9, just to be clear.
And now it's number 9, but it was 10 for the public hearing, so I'm calling it 10.
Yep. please.
And we can do this, we vote for things after we close public hearing, generally anyway, and the public hearing has been closed. That's for this discussion, for the public to weigh in on all that type of stuff. The planning board can delay a vote to another meeting if they want to. They usually have to say so at the meeting, but in this case, it's not gonna be. No, so anyways, that's why we're not discussing anything about it. We're only discussing what we're doing, nothing about it. So
thank
motion,
you for that long explanation.
Okay.
I really appreciate that.
motion on the floor, seconded. All those in favor of putting amendment 10 onto the warrant article, I'm gonna go for a roll call vote, because that's what we did before. I started with Michael last time, so Michael,
No,
Richard,
yes,
I'm no. Victoria,
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Charlie, okay, so now we have, well, yeah, it's done, it's going on the warrant, so we don't have to worry about it. So, Richard, do you have any more questions on it?
Not to that specific one, but I do have comment about what did occur. Concerning amendment 8. And my comments are that thinking about it afterwards, my mind is not as nimble as it should be. But I felt as though we were ambushed. That evening. The letter that came in 10 minutes before the meeting. Did not, we didn't get a chance to review it really and let it sink in and or to give the Conservation Commission time to look at it and perhaps make adjustments to what they were presenting. To give the public more information as to what they were doing. Maybe to cut back the buffer even closer to the wetland or whatever. And under 675(3), they have, or anyone presenting a warrant article has 5 Tuesdays prior to the actual election to present that to the clerk or to be put on the ballot.
You talking about a petition warrant article?
No, it doesn't have to be a petition. It can be an editorialized. Or minor adjustments to
But they're
an
only,
article that has been presented. Okay, and we didn't allow that. My feeling is that because of the way it was brought to us, that we should have continued that public hearing to allow for more assessment of what was, being presented to us from the selectmen and the town manager.
I see what you're saying, they didn't have time enough for that letter to
No,
sink in for to
We
discuss that
didn't,
letter.
no, that's what I say.
Had we continued it, it would have killed them all. Because
No.
no time would have run out.
No, the 5 Tuesdays doesn't expire until next week. So we could have done it in this meeting. We still would have had time legally under that RSA.
I'm just asking Adam,
Yeah.
because he's our guy keeping all that stuff.
But I just,
Maybe, maybe not.
I mean, everything that I saw when reviewing this was related to petitions. The five Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
That's what I thought it was
And
pertaining to.
we had talked, Stefan and I talked with Mike. The warrant it's already signed. It's already had to have been completed by now. So
but under what RSA does that
I don't do the
fall?
warrant. I don't do the warrant. This is a comment from Mike. So I can talk to Mike again, but the Mike already signed the warrant.
But anytime you have issues like that at a meeting, bring them up.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm not as nimble.
Yes, I'm saying here, lots of
I've
times,
been thinking about this for 2 weeks,
But-
solid.
that does happen,
Drives me nuts.
myself, I'll leave a meeting and say, geez, I should have such and such like,
Yeah,
now we're doing now. I should have called for that motion.
I
did.
So just to read the language here, RSA, so. The 5th Tuesday before the date of the annual meeting, that's specifically referring to. Petition zoning amendments.
Thought it probably was because you get it petitioned and you get it presented by one of the other boards, perhaps like the planning board or
Yeah.
the conservation commission, and even the ZBA. Can present, zoning amendments.
Yeah.
For the planning board to review, but the planning board always has to review.
And also, anybody can submit a letter at any time before the be read at the meeting.
Yeah.
If they're a resident of Swansea, they have a right for their voice to be heard. So I'm not really sure what else we could have done, because if somebody gives me a letter before the meeting, I'm gonna read it at the meeting, because that's.
Yeah.
I have to do that, so,
And you read it, yeah.
yeah, so I read,
Well, we got more than one.
I read 2 letters of support and 1 letter not in support. I mean, it was pretty balanced, I thought.
Yeah, my other point was, and I mentioned this in our meeting. These warrant articles were presented to our legal counsel for review. And there was not one of them that he objected to or cited potential problems.
And he shouldn't have. I
No.
mean, no, that, he's the legal guy. If it's a legal issue, that isn't a legal issue that we're talking about. Those amendments, there are issues as a result of passing something like that, but not a legal issue, wasn't.
Cordell was fine with all the amendments legally.
Well, but there was language in the selectmen's letter saying, what's our we're gonna have. to make this
Liabilities and stuff.
disclosure, which to me seems like a red flag, legal.
Yeah.
But the selectmen felt-
Again, it was an opinion.
It was an
I mean, they were giving you an opinion. They weren't, it wasn't our attorney giving us that opinion. It was selectmen.
Yeah, but when we present something, but this is my, my shot, if we present something to our legal counsel. For him to review, and he's done this in the past, he's pointed out, well, okay, you've got this, but you need to. Take care of this verbiage or whatever, because it's leading you into something else, or you're missing something for recourse or something of that nature. And none of that was brought up, but that's just my own feeling thing.
That's not his job, that type of, his job, again, strictly legal part of it there. Nothing to do with what it might have to do with something already passed in the town, or something that might be, a landowner might be developing or something in town. We can't get too specific because we've done all this before. We can't really discuss it too much. But just in general terms like that, if if there's a problem with a owner that thinks that the zoning ordinance is hurting him, then he has a legal right to take it to court. But it isn't our attorney's job to say that, or review the properties in town and say, well, I think this property might have a legal recourse there, or this property might have to. He just has to go by what we presented to him. You know, we presented the argument, how do you think this affects such and such a law? Then he would have given us his opinion on it.
I sent him the amendments as written.
Yeah, and as we have to.
He sends me his opinions. The only opinion that he did say was that article, amendment 10, now amendment 9, the formatting's bad. And this is something I already talked to Sherry about. I sent her a different format. She changed it because it blows a different way than the way it's written now.
Prior to the hearing, all right?
Yeah.
Prior to the hearing, because
Yeah.
anything after the hearing.
So it's gonna go on the warrant with bad formatting because that's the way
That's-
voted. But
That's not a hearing,
nothing we can do about it.
that formatting in
Yeah,
other places in our zone.
but that was the only comment from our legal team that was like correcting something.
Yeah.
Or like giving his opinions.
Charlie, you look puzzled.
No,
You have any questions? No questions?
just listen.
Just taking it all in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take it all in.
Yeah,
because
but just
it's like,
ask any questions, you know,
Wow.
anytime you don't get something or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm like,
We aren't gonna kick you out of here, or laugh at you or anything like that, you know, just ask the question.
you'd be like me, just always hope there's smarter people. Yeah, yeah.
Or insist on knowing why.
So anyway, I see your point, Richard, and yeah, we can and do discuss things like that, anything like that about that letter or anything like that, bring it up at the meeting. If you think of it, I know, you can think of everything, we all can, but.
So, the only other comment I had was. I felt that one of the selectmen was inappropriate in his statement about the Base Hill project. Stating that it was in the pipeline and it's going to happen. I don't think that should have been, I don't think he should have been saying anything like that.
I don't know, he has, of course, as a private citizen using one back there.
Well, he represented himself as a member of the selectmen.
Now, did he when he said that statement?
Yes,
Okay.
and I don't know if he has any interests as far as the
I don't know
land.
what's going on there.
You know,
Yeah.
what he,
I don't know either.
but anyway, I just, you know, it's just something that stuck in my head and
Yeah.
I just felt it was inappropriate for that person to be saying that. You know, trying, you know, it just seemed like, well, you know, go ahead and present your petition warrant. But, you know,
No
snowballs
comment.
tell,
Yeah,
a
no
chance of
comment.
help getting it through,
Yeah,
so. Anyways, that's the end of my report.
I'll call him out of order next time.
Sorry, Kenny.
Okay. Moves us on to conditional use permits. And in our packet, we have some research that Adam has done on them.
Research is maybe a two.
Well, commentary, we'll say, yeah, not so much research, but that's what we're gonna be doing over the course of the next probably months or year, whichever.
This is just-
See how it might work.
Yeah, this is just to broach the topic, and this is because Sherry and I were having conversations about the wetlands amendments, proposed wetland amendments. And if special exceptions or conditional uses were a better way to address people not adhering to the ordinance, or if they just go for a variance. We did not have time to do this before before this year. And I'd argue we don't have time to do this until after town meeting, but good time to start talking about this stuff. We cannot do a conditional use permit until next town meeting, because it needs to be in our ordinance, which
Yep.
means to change our ordinance has to go on the warrant articles for next year.
Okay.
So anything we do, we have plenty of time. We can't do anything before next year's town meeting, so there's no reason to rush this, essentially. If anybody read the document, if you guys have questions, now's probably the time to ask. I don't really have too much to get into today, but I'm still doing my research. It's kind of hard to distinguish between conditional use permits and special exceptions.
It sure is, yeah, it really is.
Because honestly, they're kind of the same thing. It's just the governing body behind them is different. Special exceptions, the zoning board approves or
Yeah.
denies. Conditional use permits, it can go planning board, zoning board, conservation commission, yeah. It can go, yeah, planning board most likely though.
But I think on the conditional use permits, are we gonna have them just for wetlands? Is that what you have in mind, or is what Sharon has in mind?
We can,
Because if that's the case, then
special exception.
then the criteria, no, the criteria can be different than a special exception.
Yeah.
You know, we can set our own criteria. It doesn't have to be the state required special exception criteria. It'd be ours, yeah, it's the wetlands in our town. Yeah, so we have some leeway there to write it, of course, legal. That's not legal. Yeah, well, but that gives us a chance to be creative. Yeah. So,
Ordinances, I was digging in, there's a, having buffers around wetlands, it was something that's been talked about in New Hampshire since the mid-70s.
Mhm.
And there was a handbook that was prepared in the mid-70s that gives potential language for towns to use. There's a more recent iteration of a handbook that has a draft wetlands ordinance, including buffers, including a conditional use section of it. So, there's already existing language that we could, you know,
Take a look
look
at
at
that.
and,
good start.
you know,
Where was that
adopt.
from?
It's the
This.
New Hampshire, it's the innovative land use
Oh, yes,
handbook, and there's a special chapter that's just a draft ordinance for wetlands protection
okay,
that includes a section.
I'll look
in
at
that
that,
ordinance.
yeah, I'll look at that tomorrow. There's a lot to dig into. with these.
So one comment is, I've read these words, you know, hoping to explain them at some point, but we're not getting it. When you have a conditional use, permit. That's on that property, is that going to the deed?
The site plan, I don't know if we would have to put into the deed unless we required it as a town. I suppose we could require that to go into the deed, but. Generally, anything else like a special exception or a variance goes with the property. And so that would be on the site plan.
I would
Or
say,
the file.
but not in the deed space.
Not like an easement, you know, easement of course has to be on the deed. But we do register those, right?
We do register them, but
So
I don't think they go through. the-
No, but they are registered up there. The
Mhm.
site plan with those conditions usually written on them are registered up there, not as a deed, but registered.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it runs with the land, and if it's discontinued, if that use is discontinued for a year, it's invalidated. Just like a variance, would be.
So about getting back to the conditional uses, how about the real general criteria here as to which board? Because Adam gave us suggestions as to which board could administer those. And whether it should be the planning board, ZBA, or conservation commission even. And
Yeah, on the second page, it talks about, I'm under the impression that
that,
the planning board has to review anyway.
yeah, but
So-
I don't know, what I was reading that same thing and thinking, you know, you were talking about conservation commission, then you brought it up. About the planning board, but you're right, the planning board, I think, does have to review them, so it might just as well go to the planning board, or the planning board might just as well administer the whole thing, I would think.
Well, the way we have it set up is that the conservation commission is gonna see it anyway, before the planning board meeting. So they're already gonna have comments on it. And then the planning board is gonna see it because it's gonna be part of our site review process, so, yeah.
So it probably should be part of the planning board's review process, I think it should be, I don't know what the rest of the board think about that, or too early to tell. Initially, I think it's gonna make it slow.
So if it's gonna duplicate effort by having conservation commission, exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
then we have to review.
Or a CBA too,
Or
same
CBA.
exact thing, and then just another step for the applicant to go through, and we have to review it, write our, you know, comments and all that stuff about it, so. Should be handled here.
I would just say, you know, concerning wetlands, the conservation committee, the wetland, and be really.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody on that committee who's unreasonable, who denies somebody say access to wetlands in order to develop, you know, 7 acres of retention
Yeah.
per lot.
And that's what we need it for, I mean, this ordinance is just one way, you know, they aren't saying that, no, you can't do it, but the ordinance says it until we give them relief, so that's what we're doing.
You know, what they're trying to do with the wetlands is kind of make sure the controls are in place to protect it.
Yeah. And there's nobody out to destroy the wetlands either, on the other side of the coin there, so everyone's on the same page in that regard, it's just different ways to go about it, and different.
I think
benefits about it.
what I'm hearing an undercurrent of what Mark is saying too, is that, we have a history as a planning board to put a lot of weight on the comments that we get from the conservation commission, but we don't really have that codified in any way, you know? Maybe future planning boards will be more resistant to what the conservation commission has to say, so maybe we should somehow, you know, put some language in there somewhere that says, you know, pay strong attention to what the conservation commission has to say.
See, didn't we add that into our rules of procedure about whether the conservation commission, if the conservation commission hasn't seen it, then the planning board would either continue it or not hear it, or somehow it would not be decided in that one meeting until we hear from the conservation commission. I'm pretty sure we put that in.
No, I think that covers it because it means that we're required to. put
That's
out
right, yeah.
some- Yeah, that makes sense.
I was to say, I think over time, previous time, but you're correct, that anytime something came up that we thought the conservation commission should have been looking at or should look at, we put it off until we've heard from them.
We shouldn't, because it turned out that sometimes they meet once a month, right? Conservation Commission meets once a month. So sometimes the meetings wouldn't coincide, the planning board would approve something that wasn't seen by those guys until the next meeting, so.
We run into a problem where, department head review forms go out the day they meet a lot of the times, which kind of sucks. Because you guys don't have any time to look at it, and I'm wondering if there's a different way we can do that, but looking at submission deadlines, it's always really tight. There's so many ideas for me.
Well, if something was really pressing, I'm sure the committee would find it.
I'm at the point now where I'm just gonna start forwarding you guys the application package from because on Thursdays when we get it.
And right, and if the planning board has not heard from the conservation commission about that particular site plan, we'll just continue into the next meeting.
And just use an example, say providing access to wetlands, it's not a matter of just filling that in, the water needs to flow,
Well, they'd have to get a dredge and fill permit from the state. I mean, anything to do with that, they're looked over pretty closely.
I think one of the good things about conditional uses is that it's a completely different process from a variance, whereas variances are very hard to obtain. And has very strict language saying how you meet those requirements. This just gives you another path, which I think is important.
An easier path, right?
And, yeah,
Which it should
hopefully,
be
yeah,
in that
hopefully.
regard, but it's meant for a different reason. The conditional permit is meant as a special exception reason, which again is just to have another set of eyes on what's going in that neighborhood and not just across the board letting it in under a special exception.
So, question, if we design a conditional use review process for the planning board, is it our intention to initially exclusively use it for reviewing wetlands applications, presumably there's gonna be.
I think it'd be a good start. I
Start
mean,
there,
to
and
get
then
used to
maybe
it,
get
and
used
we
to
could
it.
expand it, I suppose, at another town meeting, but
Some of the things that we would, want to consider in here in the future, maybe, just kind of brainstorming about.
conditional use, I mean, other than wetlands, it would probably be for innovative land use like cluster developments, things like that, those types of things it would be used for.
And we do still need to pick specific uses. So the way this is set up in town and other towns, I know other towns, they have use tables, which we're gonna have. I promise we're gonna have them at some point. They have under different columns, they have special exception and conditional use. And they have a checkbox, so like this use is either under a special exception or conditional use, so. Conditional use still needs to be tied to a specific use. At least historically, that's the way towns in New Hampshire.
So
do it.
like drive-throughs.
Exactly. Exactly, so we can leave some uses as still a variance,
Yeah,
which means we just don't have any new ones at all. Or we have a set number of uses that we deem worthy of conditional use, depending on how the land is.
We have to be adding in, for crossing the wetlands, have to add into our uses driveways. and
Driveway,
roads.
exactly, that's maybe the
In all
first
of the
one.
categories.
Yep.
Though, it'd have to be everywhere.
Well, I
if that's
think-
how it goes.
I think that can be outside of the table, just somewhere like driveway roads or infrastructure.
Common to everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it'd have to be otherwise, if it's a use.
Well, that have to go through in the driveway ordinance, the driveway.
It could, but that's slightly different there. It still needs to be seen by the planning board, site plan and that type, so.
This is why we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do and we got a lot of time to think about it.
And I'm gonna be talking to different planners in different towns to see how they enacted it and how they organized it, and just, I need some advice, because usually this is just set up for me. And of course, we're still able to roll with special exceptions, but then you guys aren't touching this until site plan. You guys will still see it, but the zoning board will see this before site plan. So if we don't want to do conditional uses, special exceptions, I think are still a good way to go. But again, that has nothing to do with the planning board, so.
I like the idea of evolving, starting with wetlands, but evolving into, presumably we'll like it. But in theory, I like the idea of having sort of a case by case flexibility, because the land that is now available is ever more marginal. I just feel like we're gonna have to be able to have case specific assessments.
Yeah.
Particularly for commercial development.
Yeah. But, and all I'm saying is that if the more we research this, if we start to see that all of the criteria we're wanting is the same as special exception, we should probably just stay with the special exception.
Yeah.
And then we'll still need to put that in the ordinance, of course, and that is what planning board has to do. So next warrant article, we'll have to say, hey, this needs to be added to the wetlands ordinance to start, and then, yeah, so I'm just saying, the more we research this, if it looks like a special exception, we might as well just keep the special
Yeah,
exception.
that's a good thing to keep in mind.
So we need to
That's
be
exactly.
sure, exactly, so we'll have the special exception criteria, the more we talk about this open, and if it. Starts to look like a special exception, yeah, but then we need to start determining uses, so that's gonna be the long part, and we need to work with Conservation Commission on that, so, yeah. Which is why we couldn't do this before those amendments were written, because we just didn't have time to do. However many meetings we need to do to figure out what uses are gonna be under those, so. A lot of work to do.
You can do it, Adam. You can.
Yeah,
Where we give you the big bucks.
yeah, well, you guys are gonna be helping with uses, so.
Yeah,
You guys get
We want a pay raise,
and just how we lay it out, yeah, it'll be a cord.
Doesn't matter what percentage.
Yeah.
That brings us to other business as required. Anybody have anything?
only that I have a list here of bills that are coming up on land use, just land use, it's all, if somebody wants the copy now, I haven't looked into them much yet. So,
Did you send an email to Adam and have Adam send them out to us, or
I
email to
gave
us?
Adam
Oh,
already,
yeah.
so if he wants to send them out to everybody.
Are there a lot of them, you mean, or something, or what?
There's
How many?
1, 2, 3, 7 of them.
Oh, 7, yeah, that's quick.
2 of them are set bills and 5 of them are house bills.
Yeah. And you haven't looked into all of them yet, so you
Yeah.
can't give us.
If people have time and you have formed an opinion on either one of them. Testifying in front of the house where they have their public hearing is a lot of fun. I was up there today again.
Depends on your definition of fun, I guess.
Oh, it is because sometimes you can tongue tie some of those representatives.
Probably can.
It's fun. You can see Sly sitting there.
Okay,
Well,
well,
Sly sits on the municipal committee.
yeah,
Which is good because he understands our town a lot better than somebody that doesn't know.
Something. The boards that I've served on, and every year we look at the conflict of interest. And I wonder if we ought to think about doing.
yeah, we haven't talked about that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because, if we go accused, like. Of having participations, and I think it would be good for us to individually feel clear and in the board, so that we know when to recuse ourselves.
And from my understanding of that, sometimes it's a board issue. The board takes a vote on whether the person has a conflict or not. Person says, I want to step down, but the board sometimes has to vote and say, yes, you can, or you know, you can't step down. We don't think it's a conflict of interest. So I think that might be in some of our rules. Procedure.
Yeah, it's a town policy, I think that applies, because applies to all the different boards.
Yeah.
But I think my fundamental question is. Sometimes, like if we're making zoning amendments. We all sort of have we could have a conflict of interest.
But we aren't deciding on those. I mean, the town is deciding on those,
Okay.
so,
Okay,
Yes.
we're just proposing.
yeah, we're passing it on and let the people vote on it.
Oh,
The fine.
so the fact that I might advocate for a certain zoning change.
That's not a conflict.
That's not a conflict, okay, thank you.
If you were making the decision on it, then yeah.
Oh, but I vote.
Yeah.
But
true.
even so, it's a good idea. I have a copy of that too, but I don't know if everyone else has one. Maybe at our next meeting or a meeting we have time, you can get a copy of the town conflict of interest paragraph or, it's a little paper there. And we'll discuss it, just so,
I mean, we used to, on one board, we would every year actually list all the, the things that we did that might potentially be a conflict.
Mhm.
Which, it just makes you think about.
Yeah.
Relative to this.
Anything else? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Victoria, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Anyway, I testified on